Hello everyone. This is the introduction class for the JavaScript. So let us understand what is JavaScript. So JavaScript it is basically a client side programming language. Okay, it is what? It's a client side programming language or it's a client side scripting language. Okay? So what do you mean by client side scripting language? That you should understand. See, client side scripting language refers to scripts that run within your web browser. So, always you'll execute your HTML code in your web browser. But HTML is basically a static markup language where you cannot interact anything using a HTML. Okay, if you want to add some interactivity and a dynamic effects to the web page by manipulating the content that should be written from a server, then you should obviously use a JavaScript. So JavaScript was originally developed by LiveScript. Okay, so JavaScript was originally developed by whom? LiveScript, which is by the Netscape in the mid of 1990s, and later it is renamed as JavaScript. Okay, so JavaScript is an object oriented language, and it also has some similarities like and syntax like a Java programming language. Okay, it has some similarities like Java programming language. Okay, but Java is completely a programming language, whereas JavaScript is a scripting language. Scripting means what? A small sort of code. Okay, and what you can do with the JavaScript? You might have wondered, like, why should I need a JavaScript? Okay, so what can you do with JavaScript? Can you do with JavaScript? Okay, so the short form I'm just writing as JS. Okay, so the important thing which you can do with the JavaScript are you can modify the content of a web page by adding or removing the elements. Simply that modifying the contents. Okay, so you can modify the contents, you can add some interactivity. So you can add some adding interactivity in your web page. Okay, so that is basically can be done with a JavaScript. Okay, and you can perform and control transition and animation. You can monitor the events. Okay, you can create and monitor events like mouse click. Okay, mouse click, mouse over, like that. Okay, etc. So there are various events that we will be discussing in our session, and in this tutorial we'll be covering more about JavaScript, like how to add many interaction and how to display a message box into it. Okay, so usually in your web page, if you want to add any script, you have to add what? You have to add a name called script. That is, you have to add a tag called script. Okay, so usually how we will be adding a tag, you have to use a less than symbol. Okay, that is less than and greater than symbol. Like this you will be adding the tags. Okay, so like this you have to add the tags. Okay, so then only it will work out. Okay, inside that you have to tell what type of scripting language you're going to use, because we have two types of scripting language. One is JavaScript and another one is VB script. So you have to tell what type of scripting language you're going to use inside. That is that a JavaScript or it is a VB script? Okay, that is one possibility, but default by default whatever you type, no, even if you simply leave it as a script, it will assume that as a JavaScript. Okay, so that we have to give. Okay, so let us understand the basics of JavaScript with a simple example. Okay, you have various ways to use JavaScript, external JavaScript program, internal JavaScript program, inline JavaScript program. So we will see all these things in the future classes. So this is what the detailed introduction about the JavaScript.